This serve hides the racket instantly, forcing opponents to read the spin purely by the ball's speed. Today, I'm going to teach you a very simple hook serve. It's a variation I've recently developed. Let me demonstrate. Looks good, right? Let's learn it. This is much simpler than the traditional hook serve. The direction of force is downwards. A downward motion allows for a longer acceleration path compared to an upward one. It's simpler than hook serves executed over the table or the standard chopping hook serve. There are three main types of hook serves. The first is the filing hook serve, where the force goes from back to front. The second is the chopping hook serve, which primarily uses a vertical racket face and a chopping motion. The third type is the one I just demonstrated, which I find to be much simpler. From my testing, it's also relatively easy to generate power with this serve. Shakehand grip players can perform all three types. Penhold players can do the filing hook serve and this simplified hook serve I'm teaching, which generates surprisingly strong spin. However, the chopping hook serve is very difficult for penholders because you need to keep the racket vertical to chop the ball, which I personally haven't mastered. Once you master one type, the other two become much easier to learn. What do you think is the most crucial element of the hook serve? Is it spin, speed, pace, or deception? The key is deception. Being able to produce two different spins with the same motion is the primary goal of the hook serve. For most amateur players, is your short forehand receive strong? Probably not. Therefore, the hook serve is the most effective way to serve short to the forehand, and it kicks to the side, similar to a left-hander's serve to the short wide forehand. It directly targets the three biggest weaknesses of amateur players: poor footwork, poor anticipation, and a weak short forehand receive. It can also kick sharply outwards after the first bounce, creating a very tricky short ball. This sets up your long serve to the backhand corner perfectly. The distance between these two placements is, in my opinion, the largest among all serve variations. So, another major advantage of the hook serve is the combination of a short forehand serve and a long backhand serve, both of which are difficult for amateurs to return. If I serve this short, wide ball from this position, it's effectively the same as a left-hander serving to your short forehand. It's an uncomfortable position for you, isn't it? Of course it is. Is it easy to serve side topspin with a standard pendulum serve? The opponent can often just push it back. But try a hook serve instead. If they push it, they'll just lose control and hit it long. If you're a player who prefers rallies and topspin exchanges, a side topspin hook serve is a must-have weapon. So, your practice should be structured around these three key points. First, focus on the deceptive quality of the hook serve. Work on making your side topspin and side underspin motions look identical. Second, your primary placements to practice are short to the forehand and long to the backhand corner. Third, you need to master the side topspin version. When your standard side underspin isn't working, switch to the hook serve. Remember these three advantages, and your practice will have a clear purpose. Today, we'll learn the unique mechanics of the hook serve, starting with side underspin. Are you familiar with this serve? The squatting chop serve, like the one Ding Ning uses. When I chop the ball this way, it moves to the right, which is actually the same trajectory as a hook serve. So, when we do this serve, we must also focus on generating force sideways, and after contact, the motion stops in a downward direction. Some players ask why we stop the motion below the table instead of above it. There are two reasons. First, it's easier to generate force with a wider downward range of motion. Second, since many amateur players are older and may struggle with power, this helps increase the quality of the serve after the ball makes contact. At the same time, it adds deception. So how is side underspin produced? Imagine every side underspin serve as a chop. What's the biggest difference between chopping and brushing? A chop is a short, sharp, and concentrated motion. That's a chop. Brushing involves a longer contact time and more friction. Think of it this way: side underspin is a chopping motion, and side topspin is a brushing motion. Side topspin is like brushing the ball when you loop. Side underspin is like a push. To push with heavy spin, you need to chop down on the ball, which is a chopping action. One is a downward chop, the other is an upward brush. This is the essence of the hook serve side topspin and side underspin. I'll do a slow motion demo. Tell me if this is side topspin or side underspin. That's right, it's side-underspin. Hook the wrist, move sideways, and chop downwards. That is side-underspin. This is the simplest version because it doesn't require an abrupt stop or breaking motion. To get a powerful chop, focus on the relationship between your forearm and elbow. Your forearm should start higher than your elbow and finish lower, creating a drop for maximum acceleration. Will it be spinny? Of course, it will. If your forearm moves in this direction, it won't generate much spin. Why is the chopping hook serve so spinny? Because the force is directed for side-underspin. You can only execute a good push or chop if you raise your forearm. Why do amateurs struggle with spin on their pushes? Because they don't raise their forearm. A motion like this can only lift the ball. When your forearm goes from above your elbow to below it, you'll naturally generate spin. This fully engages the power of your forearm. Start with your forearm high, and as you contact the ball, drop it below your elbow. So, the first power source is the forearm. The second power source is your fingers. Specifically, the index finger and thumb. The web of your hand also generates force. For a hook serve, you must grip tightly at the shoulder of the blade, unlike a normal stroke where there's a gap. This powerful area in the web of your hand must be engaged. It has to be tense and engaged. The same applies to penhold. When you chop down for a hook serve, the web of your hand must be used. Watch this spot. When I push down and forward with it, the ball gets very spinny. The more points of force you use, the spinnier the ball will be. Everyone contributes a piece of the power. If I use 6 points of force and you only use 2, you can't possibly serve spinnier than me. Therefore, you cannot have a loose grip for the hook serve. You must grip the racket firmly to execute the spinniest chop. Third, how do we coordinate with our body and make it a key component of the hook serve? As I toss the ball, my body rises, and my arm rises with it. Whichever way your forearm goes, your body follows. If the forearm stops here, the body stops here. If the forearm stops in a downward motion, the body also finishes downwards. Why do I press my body down? To coordinate and generate power from my body. Use your body to lower the trajectory and to maximize your arm's acceleration and power. If you just stand straight and serve, not only will the serve go high in a match, but more importantly, you're not using your body to its full potential. Don't overcomplicate it. Wherever your arm is, your body should be. The direction of force for your arm and body must be identical. Always remember, for a side-underspin hook serve, you must make contact on the lower half of the racket. Now, let's discuss the side-topspin version. Side-topspin is similar to what I mentioned earlier, like a loop. For this hook serve, you need an initial upward lifting motion, followed by a downward motion to create side-topspin. Do any of you find that your side-topspin serves are slow, not fast enough, and often too high? Let me explain why that happens. A key principle for all side-topspin serves is that they must incorporate impact. It's just like a fast, long serve. You must have the mindset of hitting a fast serve to execute a good side-topspin, which will make the ball kick. This is the spinniest serve in my hook serve arsenal. The overt, kicking side-topspin. Even though the spin is obvious, the opponent will still be jammed by it, afraid to attack, and will only be able to block it. Why am I good at this serve? Because I learned early on that all side-topspin serves require impact. If you use impact, your speed will be maximized. An opponent cannot push back a serve with that much forward pace. So, for side-topspin, speed is the critical factor. Watch this hook serve. I guarantee if someone tries to push this, the ball will fly off the table. Did I brush the ball? No. I simply hit through the ball with a forward motion. Because there's no downward friction, this ball is pure topspin. However, there is some brushing involved. It happens naturally as I move to meet the ball, not because I'm deliberately trying to create friction. So, how do we make the serve both fast and spinny? Impact creates speed. At the moment of impact, there's a hidden upward flick of the fingers. This will make the serve both fast and kicky. You're not trying to brush the ball at contact. The moment you think about brushing, you lose the forward momentum from the impact. Even a very spinny topspin serve can be pushed back if it's slow. If the ball is slow, you can chop down on it. What opponents fear is speed. So, when practicing any left spinning serves, like the hook serve or a high toss serve, if you want side topspin, remember it must have a quick release off the racket and an element of surprise. You cannot be brushing it the entire way. If you're struggling, just practice serving fast and long first. The side topspin principle for the hook serve comes from this forward momentum. It's not generated by friction. You can use friction for a short serve, but not for a long one. As you hit forward, add a hidden snap with your fingers. That's it. Prioritize speed over spin. For side topspin, always remember this principle. The hook serve motion isn't forward, it needs to be sideways. Not down, not up, just sideways. This makes the ball very fast. As you move sideways, at the moment of contact, slightly dip the racket head, then let it flick up. This is how you get a serve that's both kicky and spinny. It's the same for penhold. When you practice, understand that a level forearm path creates the most speed. Building on that, before contact, dip the racket head slightly. After contact, let it flick up. So how do I add the downward follow-through? After you push through the ball, follow through downwards to disguise the actual direction of force. So after we serve, the motion looks like this for side topspin. And this is side-underspin. When the motion is fast, it's impossible to tell the difference. You can add more deception. Stomp your foot as you serve, lower your center of gravity, and even make a facial expression. You can vary the speed and make it a bit slower, and serve with a lower trajectory. The opponent will think, this ball is so slow. It must be side backspin. First, serve a side underspin. Then, deliver the next ball at the exact same speed, making them assume it's also side underspin. Add the facial expression for effect. But in reality, it's a side topspin. If you look at the slow motion, the combined movement is very deceptive. However, if your serve only has one type of spin, it's ineffective. You need to maximize the difference between your spins. Side underspin is a downward chop with the forearm. Side topspin is a forward push and brush motion. Let's see if you can tell. Side topspin or side underspin? It's side topspin, correct. In a real match, my motion would be much faster than this, and you wouldn't be able to tell. With this serve, the racket disappears under the table immediately after contact, leaving a very brief window where it's actually visible. So, they have to judge based on speed, which allows you to play mind games. You can serve the side underspin faster with less spin, and serve the side topspin slower. Serve the side underspin high, and the side topspin low. Mix up the speeds and trajectories. I can serve side topspin very low, and I can serve side underspin high, forcing the opponent to think. Honestly, if you want to be a good table tennis player, you need at least 3 sets of serves. One set for general use, and another for tight situations like 9-8 or 6-5. And you must have a third set reserved for critical moments. You absolutely need 3 sets of serves, 1 or 2 is not enough. Amateur players often play against the same people, and they'll figure out your serves in a couple of days. They'll become useless. Second, I recommend learning both left spinning and right spinning serves. You need both. For right spinning serves, choose between a reverse pendulum and a hook serve. I recommend the hook serve, not because I can't do the reverse serve, but because it's very hard on the wrist. Third, learn a serve with a high element of surprise, like a fast long serve or a chop serve. Or something more unusual, like Kong Linghui's backhand serve. This special serve is your secret weapon for critical moments, never use it casually. If you're leading 10-3, 9-2, or 8-1 and you use your best serve, you're just letting your opponent get used to it. You have to keep your secret weapons hidden and save them for when it matters most.